Hello, and thank you for taking time from your busy day to watch this video. If you saw my last video, you know that I was really discouraged because in a few days we had to move out of our current temporary rental into another one or we would end up on the street. Well, I want to let you know that in His mercy, on the very day we had to move out of the one place, the Lord found us another place to move to. Unfortunately, because it's the busy season with the holidays and the winter time here in Florida and everybody coming to visit for the winter, I'm not sure the problem. Well, we have a temporary solution. We have 17 days left as I'm recording this to find another temporary place to stay. My uncle, who's very kind, is trying to fix up his house so that we can move there, but since he was taking care of my grandmother for 3 years before she passed away, and he had to spend most of his time taking care of her because she was so sick at the end, he didn't have a chance to do a lot of things for his house, and he was hardly home, so that brought about some issues that he wasn't able to take care of. So right now he's trying to fix it up, but he's not sure that when our time runs out we'll be able to go stay with him. And so that means, well, the Lord did answer our prayer. We still have a lot to keep praying for. So, but at least he answered our prayer, and he showed us that he is still taking care of us. But we are still pleading with God, Lord, please help us to find a place to stay. Help us to find a place that we could call home and not have to keep going from point A to B to C to D. And I don't want to have to go through the entire alphabet. I'm like, Lord, please, we do not want to have to go through the entire alphabet before we find a place. If we could even afford to have a place. Because these temporary rentals, they eat into your budget. It's not like when you have a permanent place where you get it fixed, set monthly. I mean, $2,000 a month isn't cheap, and it would really hurt us because it would be most of our budget. But at least it would be controlled, eat into our budget. It wouldn't eat into the savings we have for the house. But some of these places are well above that because it's so hard to find one. So we're just like, Lord, what do we do? No, SSI doesn't give you much. Social Security doesn't give much. Together, we're better off than some, but not enough to be able to keep going at the rate our savings has disappeared. How are we going to afford to put a down payment on a place? Lord, where are we going to go? We've been, the past few days we have just been pleading with the Lord. Our hearts aching and breaking, and we're just like, Lord, what do we do? We know you love us. You showed us you loved us because you provided us a place to stay. You've done so many things in the past. We know you care. We know you haven't abandoned us. But the way things are going, it seems we're doomed to end up on the street. Lord, how is that as for your glory for us to end up homeless? It has been a very, very trying time. It's teaching us a lot about trust. It really has been a test of trust, and I look at some of these Bible verses so different about trust so differently now. It's funny, and when you're in peace, you think you have trust, and you do have some trust, but when that test comes, it really works that muscle out, and then you start going, Lord, do I have enough trust to make it through this? Is my muscle gonna give away? Lord, please help me because I don't want to let go. And are you sure we need to? When you measured this trial, that that you had the right scale. You just sometimes, like, you try not to, but you can't help but wonder. I'm like, because it's just like at every turn, everything has gone wrong. I mean, before our house sold, there were homes on the market that were beautiful homes, that 5-bedroom, 3-bath, that we could afford. I still remember there was a beautiful trailer. It had been redone. It was a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom trailer, over about the size of our old home, on 3 acres, $189,000. With the sale of our house, after we paid off the realtor, after we paid the bank back everything we owed, we could have put a good amount down, had a small monthly payment, and had a little bit of money left over to build a little deck with a wheelchair ramp so that I could comfortably get up and down with a walker, or even a wheelchair if I was in a bad way and needed it. And we would have been in a much better state than where we were currently living. And then our house sold, and everything in our price range disappeared. Not one thing in the affordable. I mean, prices just went up, and fixer-uppers that were definitely, I mean, just trash heaps, were almost $189,000. And I'm like, what happened? Interest rates went through the roof. Our dog got sick. We had to spend, like I said in the last video, we spent lots of money taking care of him. And then we lost him. And then we've had issues with health. Like, I had a mini stroke because I get tendency to blood clots. And it's like, Lord, trust. I trust you. I'm trying to trust you. But we're being hit with everything, including the kitchen sink. And now I look at a Bible verse like Isaiah 12:2, where it says, "Behold, God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. For the Lord Jehovah is my strength and my song. He has also become my salvation." And I look at that verse and I go, those are so easy to say when everything is right. It is so easy to say, I will trust and I will not be afraid when I have a secure roof over my head, when my family members are safely and securely around me, when, okay, maybe I don't have a big bank account of money, but I'm not worried that tomorrow I'm going to be on the street. It's so easy to say, in that time of peace, I will not be afraid, I will trust. But those words take on a totally new meaning when you're sitting there going, am I going to be homeless? Has the Lord measured out and determined that I can make it through this trial and be homeless? And you start wondering, and you're waiting, and day after day goes by, and instead of getting closer to finding a home, you seem to be getting further from finding that home. And the stress of it all, as much as you try to trust, there is some stress, and it takes a toll on your health, mental and physical, and the health issues are going on, and you're wondering, Lord, what's going to happen? Will we have health even by the time this prayer is answered? Will we have any money in our account by the time prices come down? And you reading that verse, and that verse is coming to your mind, you're going, I will trust and not be afraid. And those words come to your mind, you're like, wow, that's a hard thing to say when you are in a situation that is terrifying. It's unnerving. It's so uncertain. And I know we're better off than a whole lot of people. And I think I'm so blessed because I'm still in the situation better off than some, because we still have the support of our family. They're still trying to help us where they can. But none of them had the money to keep us from the street. And like I said, my uncle's doing his best to fix up the house so that we could live with him for a while, but I never understood that saying I will trust and not be afraid. People always describe it's like you're a parent, you're a child in your parent's arm, and you feel that security and that trust. But there are still situations that even when you're a kid, even though your parents are there, you can't help but feel a little scared. You're really, really sick. Or you can sense that there's a problem in the family. And even as a kid, with the security of your parents, you get a little scared sometimes. And so for the first time, I'm looking going, that trust, that's also a state of mind. That's something that I'm having to make a conscious decision to do. I have to make. It's not always an automatic thing. I have to be willing to look at what God has done. I have to. I don't know how to put it because I don't want to put it in the wrong words, but in part, even though God has done so much, sometimes when things get that bad, part of that trust and not being afraid is making the conscious decision, that effort to say, I'm not going to look just at the problem. I'm going to put my eyes on all the things you've done in the past. And I'm going to focus my eyes not on the danger ahead, not on the trial ahead, but I'm going to look at what you've done, and I'm going to say, because of this, I know I can trust, and I know I don't have to be afraid. Sometimes we reach a point where God brings us to such a test where we have to, it's a struggle, but to exercise that muscle means we look and see. And I'm rambling again, and I don't mean to. I'm starting to ramble, but because it's such a hard topic. Maybe because I'm still in the middle of it. It's still ongoing. It hasn't been processed enough to say it the way I want to. But as we've gone through these days of uncertainty, I've looked at some of these Bible texts. I've looked at the story of Job. And I've tried to picture his situation and think, if mine feels bad, if we are struggling, how much harder would it have been to be Job? Because we didn't have far to fall. We were not super uber rich. We didn't have power, position, prestige, honor, all that glory that comes with being a billionaire. Being one of the wealthiest people in the world. And we had to think about what we wanted, and we had to go through the books and can we afford this, and well, I would like this and that. Well, which one do I want the most? Because I can't afford but that. So which of those important things do I get? Which important thing do I put for later? But that wasn't the case with Job. Job could do anything he wanted. Job, he had servants. If he wanted to go around the world, he could have afforded to. If he wanted to buy a brand new house with a swimming pool and put in a lake and a moat, he could make almost any dream he wanted come to life. People were probably falling at his feet for his advice because he was like a prince because of his wealth. And then in one day he lost it. One day everything taken from him. Power, prestige, honor, money, security, his children, his legacy, gone in one stroke. And then not long afterwards to be so sick. And in that circumstances, he not only lost that, but he probably lost friends. Some of his family probably pretended that they didn't know who he was because he was no longer, in that same position. That kind of blow is hard, and the struggle I'm having couldn't be but 1/10 of what he went through, and yet he was able to say, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him." Those words could not have been easy to say, "Though he slay me," after he lost everything. He must have felt like God was going to slay him, because he lost everything, including his health. His friends were blaming him for his position. Everybody, it was the laughing stock. Now, the few friends that were standing by him were saying, "It's your fault. All this happened because you were disobedient. You must be doing some sin. And it's your fault those people died. It's your fault those people were taken captive. It's your fault you lost everything. It's your fault your children died." That's basically what they were telling the man. It's all your fault. And the emotional stress, the emotional heartache he must have been going through. Yeah, I bet you at that time he felt like the Lord was going to kill him. Probably felt that was the easiest thing, that it would have been easier if the Lord hadn't put him to rest. Yet he was able to say, "Though he slay me, I will trust in him." He had to have made a conscious decision that no matter what, I know the road here is hard. My heart is aching. He was in mourning for his children and mourning for everything, because you can't lose all that without going into some deep type of mourning. Yet he made that choice, and it gives me hope that if Job could make that choice, if he could utter those words in such a time of uncertainty, suffering, a loss, it staggers my mind to even think about that I and my family and I, we can make that choice, and by the grace of God, we can trust that even though our cord of faith even though we had that little mustard seed of faith, and it feels, or that candle flame seems to be Satan's trying to blow it out, and even though it has just the faintest little flicker, God can keep it burning, and he will carry us through to the other side, and someday, very soon, hopefully, I will be able to fill my mouth with wonderful words of praise for God and tell you about the wonderful things he's done for us. That's my hope. I'm like Job. Well, it's not easy to say. It's a struggle as I face this hour of discouragement and uncertainty. But by the strength, the grace of God, I want to say, though he slay me, yet I will trust in him. Because I can also say that I will not be afraid, because I can look back at all that God has done for me in the past, the way he worked to protect us, the way he provided someone at the right time after my father died to help us make it through until Social Security kicked in for my mother again, and SSI and all that stuff for my sister, because her account had been under my father's name, so for a couple of months she didn't get anything until it was put back in her name and it went through officially. So I remember after my father died, there were times a bill was due and we had nothing to pay the bill, because what little that was going to come in for the month had already been used up. And just at the time the bill was due, the Lord sent someone to help us. so that we could put the exact amount we needed to pay the bill. And he did that several times in those first few months after my father passed away. And I spoke earlier about the miracle he did to get us into the house. What I forgot to mention is when my parents went to sign the loan papers, the person there goes, "How did you sell your house? No one's buying houses right now." But the Lord had sent us up, and she didn't know that the person wasn't charging us rent that whole time, and that the person for 6 months didn't charge us anything. And when we went to sign the loan paper, she also went, "How did you get a loan? Right now we're not giving out loans." So the Lord was showing in so many ways that He was providing for us, that He was taking care of us. So I can see why I can trust Him. I know I can trust Him. And I know deep down I don't have to be afraid. I just have to make the determined choice to put my hands in His and know that they are much stronger than I am, that He can see the end from the beginning, and He will not lead me anywhere that is not for my best and not for His glory. And by His grace, my family and I will make it securely to the other side, and we will have such a wonderful story to tell of all the ways that He took care of us when it seemed like there was no hope. Now, I hope this humble rambling, simple rambling somehow gives you hope that you can say, if they're going to be determined to trust God, even in their situation, I can trust God in mine. May God bless you, and may you put your faith fully in Him and be able to say, I will not be afraid, because you look back at what God has done for you, and you could say, yes, He is trustworthy and He will not let me go. Only I can make the decision to let go. God bless you, and till we meet again.